This week on Capitol Report, a shakeup on the State Board of Pardons and Paroles after sharp increase in commutations of violent prisoners.
This is not a political issue. This is an issue about safety and about supporting victims.
As let's get into it, Governor Lamont removed the chair of Connecticut's Board of Pardons and Paroles. Carlton Giles under Giles watched last year. The board reduced the sentences of 71 inmates, over half of them behind bars for murder. To put that in perspective, there were only six commutations in the previous 6 years total. News about those commutations leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, especially, as you'd imagine, the relatives of the murder victims. Watch this.
They did the right thing. We accepted a 42-year contract, ironclad, knowing and trusting that this system is going to work for us. Well, guess what? We were wrong.
Well, the governor only stripped Giles of his leadership position, a move applauded by Republicans. Get this, Giles still remains on the board. He survived the Senate vote in a renomination hearing. Bigger question at hand is about the power the board has when it comes to making decisions about computations. Watch this.
The chairman and the two additional folks that sat with him during the pre-screening and the commutations hearings should leave the board. The other folks that are on the board, we all need to reevaluate them, but I think we need to do that diligently, and just voting them in today is not doing that.
Yes, we could argue about the fact that they should have been even more transparent. I won't tell you not to argue that. But this is not just something that happened where no one was aware, where none of us had any input into it.
So, Joe, what was he saying there?
Well, look, I think it's happening more and more often, especially at the legislature. They're ceding their power, their authority, their policy making over to these independent agencies, whether it's DEEP, whether it's the pardons and paroles, right down the list. And then they're surprised when results come out that they're not happy with. I think the governor took the right step, changing the chair, because he adopted a policy which I think was against the statutes, was wrong. And especially with these families, that they've made this deal, they've done the plea bargains, and now it's all changing momentarily. It's just not fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right, and I, give credit to the Senator Summers in particular for leading the charge on this issue, bringing it to light, and making it about the facts, making it about the families, and not playing politics in this. And good for the governor for taking action.
UW.
Well, I think that, let's level set here. Connecticut still is one of the safest states in the entire country, and the chair, which I don't agree was removed in his leadership role, is a former police officer. So this isn't about a soft on crime issue. I think that it is the prerogative of the legislature if they want to change the policy and the laws. I, for one, do not want politicians making the decisions on commutations. There is an independent board and agency that is prescribed to do that, and I believe that they operated within their scope and their role. And so I think that this is let's look at the policy, let's figure out who needs to make the decision, and let's take it from there. But the parole board acted in good faith.
Yeah, I have to give a lot of credit to Representative Craig Fishbein. I haven't always agreed with him, but he actually went through what the law is, what the regulations are, and how this varied from this. The regulations require someone to have served 50% of their time before they're eligible for commutation. And what happened with the change in policy under Chairman Giles was that they said anybody who served 10 years. That's a legislative decision. Yes, the decision to make the commutation should not be up to legislators, but they're the ones who set the rules on how it's done. This new policy was clearly in violation of the statute and the regulations.
So, Joe, is this commutation flap going to lead to legislation?
I'm not sure. I know I've talked to Senator Winfield and Representative Staffstrom, and they want to have the discussion. They want to bring people to the table. I think the governor himself actually said, let's get the people to the table, including the victims' families, which is a voice that isn't heard enough as it moves on. One of the folks that Heather Summers had come up actually said, we thought this was over. We thought we weren't going to talk about it anymore. And a short 10 years later, we're getting letters in the mail saying he's seeking a commutation. That's not what we agreed to. So they have to be at the table. They're voices need to be
you
heard.
know, and Joe, we were there when the state got rid of the death penalty, but the Supreme Court had to change it because we had grandfathered in those who were already on death row. And a lot of people who voted to get rid of the death penalty said life without parole is worse than the death penalty. Here they're commuting sentences for people who are sentenced for life without parole. That's a clear violation of the promise the state made to those victims.
And the average commutation was 15 years off of a sentence. We're not talking about a year or two, right? I mean, these are significant changes, and it flies in the face of what the judicial system offered as a punishment, right? They had a trial in front of their peers in a fair and blind way, and so for the committee to be going through this and undoing that, it's wrong.